Hi everybody, it's Trisha the Lumber Lady. Valentine's Day is coming up, and so I put together this cute little Valentine's decor, and I wanted to share with you guys how I put it together. Alright, so now I'm going to tell you where I got my letters. My L here is, you could go to the lumber store and find some nice textured wood, cut it at a 45-degree angle, and glue it together and have your L. I couldn't find any wood I liked, so I actually went shopping for a frame. And I found this frame and I just chopped it off where I wanted, and I actually got 2 L's out of it. So my L was all done, just the corner of a frame. My O I found in the trim department. You probably have seen it at the top corners of doors or windows. It's just a hardwood rosette. This one is a 4.5 by 4.5. They have smaller if you wanted to make a smaller sign. This was just square, and I set it in my miter saw and just cut this angle at 15 degrees on my miter saw, just so that my V could butt up against it if you wanted to do that. My V, I was in the trim department and found this nice trim that just has straight lines in it, gave it some texture, and so I liked it. So I cut these 3 angles, I set them at 15 on my miter saw and cut them. And then this angle right here, I set at 60 on my miter saw and cut it so that it could just butt up against this piece here. And I have my V. My E was a little more complicated. I went and found a leg in Home Depot, and it actually looks somewhat like this. And first off, I chopped off about 1.5 inches of the top because it has a little screw here, and we didn't want that. So I cut that off, and then I had my leg here, and I just actually set it in my table saw and ripped it in half so that it would be flat on this side for my E. I had a long leg, so I cut it at what length my board was and came up. So you should be able to get 2 or 4 pieces out of this depending on what size you do. So I had the base of my E. And then I just took this trim, this little trim here, and I cut a 45-degree angle, just like my L here, for both my E's, my top and bottom E, and then 45 again for the center of my E. So that is my letters. Now you can do a few things with it. One, you could stain it if you did your L in all wood. I have a problem because my L is black and this is all wood. So I am actually going to go spray paint these letters. I chose red because it's Valentine's Day, and I chose Rust-Oleum's Colonial Red. And I'm just going to go out and spray paint all my letters red. Then I have been playing with some paint. It's called milk paint, and the milk paint, you put it on and some pieces flake off to make it look like really old wood flaking off. So I'm going to paint these red, and then I'm going to come back and show you about my milk paint and paint over it. So I'll go spray these. So my letters are all painted and dried. Now I'm going to show you a little bit about the milk paint I was talking about. Milk paint is a specialty paint. If you go to Home Depot or somewhere and ask them for milk paint, they might laugh at you. You order it, you can find little shops. I looked on the internet to find my closest shop, and I would have had to travel a few hours. So I actually ordered mine off the internet, and the milk paint is made from milk, and it's an interesting paint. It's been around for a long time, but I just discovered how to use it in this sort of way, in the old antique type of way. So I mixed it up. It's a powder and you mix it with water, and I'm just going to paint my letters and let it dry, and it usually goes on pretty thin, so I will probably need to do 2 coats. So you will notice that it's a little different texture. It's kind of, there's little bumps in it and stuff like that, but that won't matter after my second coat. So I'll go ahead and do my 2 coats, and then I will show you as it starts to dry the texture and it flaking away. Okay, my second coat of milk paint is pretty much dry. There's a couple things with milk paint. It reacts differently to different woods. If it's really porous wood, it's going to soak in and not chip away. They even sell an extra bond for people who don't want it to chip away. I have found that mine is either on one end of the spectrum or not. Either it won't chip away or it completely comes off. So what I did with this before I painted it is I found a little bit of a lacquer to give it a smooth finish will peel off a lot. So if you do a full coat of lacquer, it's all gonna peel off. But I just lightly just went to give it a few spots smooth finishes. So now I'm going to take my scraper here, and I'm not gonna scrape really hard, because if you wanna look at this E here, it's already starting to flake off. Just by touching it, it's gonna start chipping away. So if I rub my scraper here, at first I'm not gonna scrape very hard. I'm just gonna see if any will peel off. Alright, so my little rubber scraper was not working as well, so I went and got my putty knife, and the metal just helped it chip right away, just exactly how I wanted it. So I would suggest when you're scraping to get your metal putty knife out. So I scraped it and I glued them on, just an old aged board. Glued them on, and then to finish it off I sprayed it with some more of my clear lacquer. It's just a clear satin, so it won't be shiny or anything, but I just sprayed it, and that should keep any more paint from chipping off. I can't chip it off at all, and so your sign is done. You could either hang it by some wire, or because of the L and the E, it can also just sit on a shelf. So it turned out just how I wanted it to. If you want to see more, go to my blog, thelumberlady.com. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have lots of videos on there. And also like me on Facebook and check me out on Pinterest. We'll see you later.